perfect, no despair. I wish I could swim here forever, Miss Lady Blue. Me and you, run down the way that we go, pulling on, picking up the sand in our toes, past down the whistling trees. Lady Blue, she is calling me. Blue, oh Miss Lady Blue. And I say, don't ever be afraid of her. Her soul is pure, clearer than a crystal in the moon. And I believe that she told the truth, 'cause ever since.
We have the music turned down just a tad. It's coming through a little bit loud. I'm not sure if
Down the way that we go, pulling on, picking up the sand in our toes, past down the whistling trees. Lady Blue, she is calling me. Blue, oh Miss Lady Blue, Miss Lady Blue.
Afternoon, everybody. You can see 28 people in the room so far.
Oh, Miss Lady, run down the way that we go, pulling up and picking up the sand in our toes, past down the whistling trees. Lady Blue, she is calling me. Blue, oh Miss Lady Blue, oh Miss Lady Blue, oh Miss Lady Blue. Oh, Miss Lady Blue. Oh, Miss Lady Blue. Oh, Miss Lady Blue. Oh, Miss Lady Blue. Miss Lady Blue.
Perfect timing. It's right on 2 o'clock. How's that? Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. And we might just give it another minute, I think, just to give people time to get into the room. My name's Jason Eades, and I am one of your co-hosts for this afternoon. And our other co-host is Elaine Buckskin. Elaine, over to you.
Thanks, Jason. It's really good to be here, and thank you to everyone joining us today. There's a lot of people coming into the round table. The numbers are quickly going up, so as we'll see, people will just keep joining us as we, continue on with this webinar. So, look, there's really fantastic talk today about arts and cultural industries, and so we'll continue to highlight those with anything that the participants might come through with any questions, and we'll try our very best to answer things for you. I will hand back to Jason.
So quickly handing that back, that handball there. So welcome everybody to what is the 4th First Nations Roundtable, the series. As Leanne said, today our focus really is on art and culture industries and how we're all dealing with the impact of COVID-19. Like everybody, I guess it's something totally new, something we really haven't gone through before. And so we are learning it as we go. And this is a great place for us to learn together, work out some strategies in terms of how we ensure our whole industry gets through this, so that at the other end, we're able to get back to some sense of normal, if there is such a thing, life. But most importantly, it's also an opportunity for you to hear from different people around some of the strategies that have been put in place to support the sector. So just keeping an eye on the participants coming in. We've got 50 odd people, nearly 60 in the room. Do bear in mind that with such a large number of people coming in, Zoom may become a little bit unstable at times. Hang with us. We have people at the back end looking after us. So if something happens, do not hang up. We will continue to push through. One of the easy ways, of course, is sometimes just flicking off the video and restarting at your end if you need to as well. But what I might do is now ask Leanne if she could do an acknowledgement of country for us.
Thanks, Jason. I'd like to acknowledge all of our First Nations, brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, aunties, who are all joining us. I acknowledge that we all come together from varying different communities and country, and I'd like to pay my respects to all of your ancestors and elders present today.
Thank you, Leanne. And I know later we'll have some discussions around, working on digital platforms and how we, stick to protocols and stuff. And of course, acknowledgement of country is one of those things we always must do, regardless of where we are. And so I just echo your words and pay my respects as well. So I think next slide, so we can talk about the key focuses of today. There's us. So of course, these roundtables are about us connecting together as an industry, how we share with one another, exchanging ideas, building our networks and keeping those networks strong at this time. When we're asked to self-isolate, it's easy to, I guess, well, not easy, you can lose those connections. And we want to make sure that people are staying connected with one another and working through this together and, navigating all of this situation. So week by week, we hope that these series actually helps people through this time. Next slide. I can hear someone has to go to the doctors. Okay, so let's talk about today's agenda. So just, we'll go through some housekeeping in a moment. We will then jump into some key issues and questions that have come about as a result of last week's webinar. We'll then hear from the team at Australia Council around some grants updates. Our fabulous guests will then join us. Before we do a bit of a pulse check, what is next, and some resources, tongue twisted already, and we've only just started. Okay, next slides.
So we'll just go through some housekeeping, as we generally do. Look, just to and how you watch the webinar. As you'll see at the bottom of your screens, you'll see a few ways that you can participate in this roundtable session. The chat box is there for you to send messages to other participants and panellists. If you click on that chat box icon down the bottom there, it will appear and you can enter messages for the group. Make sure you click on the arrow next to the 2, and so next to the 2, and the panel attendees have an option if you want others to see your message. There is also a Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. So if you have a question that you'd like us to address in one of our future roundtables, that is, or if you have a question that you would like the entire panel to speak to, we'll be submitting those questions and we can hear all of the answers to that. So we also have added a closed caption box to the roundtable. If you press on the closed caption icon, subtitles will be added for you to see as well. If at any time during this roundtable we disappear off your screen, rest assured we are still here. Yeah, so we have been dealing with some bandwidth issues. Understandably, everybody is undertaking things online now. So I'm going to hand it back to Jason, who will take us through some of the key issues and questions from last week's roundtable. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Leanne, and of course, Leanne's our tech guru for this session. No. We've been having a bit of chuckle about that. But just to reinforce on that right-hand side, there's going to be a lot of chat, people putting messages. You can all read that to one another. We'll try to grab where we see some key questions and pop them over into the Q&A box. And we'll do our best endeavours to get through those questions. But for any reason that we don't, we can come back with them out of session so that people still get to hear those answers. Next slide. So really just capturing some of the key essences of last week's roundtable. I'm not going to read those out. I'll let people read that on the screen themselves. But I think what you can see is that there's some really positive kind of conversation. And Josh really highlighted that there's just not enough research being done around natural medicines and therapies. And a lot of practitioners don't consider natural medicines, which is really unfortunate. Wayne, of course, had a call to action in terms of the clear and present danger of COVID-19 in communities, and particularly up there in the Kimberley. And we are also, hearing around some other communities as well. And of course, the impact, as it's described, around our living libraries, our knowledge holders, and the real potential impact on them. And it is something that we have to make sure that whatever's being developed through this, that we have the best interest to make sure that our older people are looked after in those communities. Kerry led us through a meditation, meditation, I think I should be saying, session, and she agreed with both with Josh and Wayne in the power of community and the ability that we have as First Nations to build each other up. And of course, Kerry said it was a time for all of us, for our hearts and minds to connect with country. And then Andy Donovan from the Australia Council then provided an update on the 4-year funding decisions. And again, we heard that 95 organisations were funded, with 28 new organisations for the rounds. I know there's been lots of discussions around the 4-year funding, and I'm sure that they will continue. We will hear some updates from the Australia Council staff today, but you are encouraged to reach out to the Australia Council staff should you have more questions or just like to talk through some of that. We don't really want to use this as an open forum to kind of go backwards and forwards. It's best that people actually talk to the staff that know those programs better than we do. And of course, Elaine shared the website for MEAA, and they're pulling together some online stories. And I'm sure we'll hear some more about that from Elaine today when she talks. That's enough from me. Back to the fabulous Leanne.
Thanks, Jason. So look, what we're going to hook into is a grants update. We've got the fabulous Sandra Collins and Pip from our team, and they're going to take you through what some of those latest grants are and responses to our COVID-19 challenge. So I'll hand it over to both you, Sandy and Pip.
Hi, thanks for that. I'm Pip Whitnome. I'm the Director of Periodontic Services at the Australia Council. Coming to you from Gadigal land in Sydney, so I acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging of the Gadigal. And thanks for letting me come and hang out at the roundtable. I'll just go through a couple of slides and then hand over to Sandy, and Sandy's going to talk to you more about the Resilience Fund specifically. But we just wanted to set the scene for those who perhaps didn't join last week about what the Australia Council is doing to support artists and organisations at this particularly stressful time. I think our key message is we're being super flexible for people who have current funding contracts with us. And that can take the form of allowing people to repurpose the funds that they have in order to honour artist contracts to pay people, to repurpose funds where it's still in the spirit of the original grant. Where possible, we're bringing forward payments or delaying reporting requirements and extending timelines for projects. I think our key message here is talk to us. The sooner you can have a chat with us about what's going on for you and what support you need, and understanding how we can be flexible for you is the best thing. So get in touch with your program officer or the grants team, and we can help give you advice and direct your query. There is some contact details for the inquiries at australiacouncil.gov.au, or you can get in touch for some legal advice as well if that's what you need from arts law, and the contact details are on the screen. So can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, I just want to highlight a question that's come through. There's a question come through while we're talking about funding. The question is, what about funding who didn't, about organisations who didn't get ongoing funding so far? I mean, I know it's a broader question, but it is something that's come through now in our Q&A box.
Yeah, I guess just to try and respond to that, there's a couple of different ways that I can respond to that. If you don't currently get funding from us, we have opened up our resilience fund, which will hopefully get some money to the sector quickly over the coming months, and Sandy will talk about what those options are. If you're talking about a company who wasn't successful with a 4-year funded application, then some will get transitional funding if they currently receive 4-year funding, others won't. And I suppose it's about directing you to the programs that are going to potentially give you a bit of support. So normally that would be like our Arts Projects for Organisations category. That's suspended at the moment. So the Resilience Fund will be the place to come in the first instance. And then certainly we'll be using all of the information that we get from that to determine how to support the sector. And I can just see, yes, there are quick funds, and Sandy will talk to you about that in a second. And then, so yeah, our response package at the moment is the Resilience Fund. It is a webinar series. It's things like these First Nations Roundtables. It's how we can be flexible in the current funds, and then the tailored funds to support resilience in the short term. So what I might do is get Sandy to start talking about the Resilience Fund.
Great, thanks Pip, thanks everybody, lovely to see you. Can we get the next slide up, Michelle? Because I think that will, yeah. So we've directed about $5 million to this Resilience Fund. As Pip said, the standard core rounds have just been suspended so that we can direct funding to where it's most needed. It's in 3 streams. The first one is Survive, the second one is Adapt, and the third one is Create. And again, I'll just reiterate that we really are encouraging people to get in contact with our grants team, and there's via inquiries at australiacouncil.gov.au or the landline or the National Relay Service. Yeah, we're just encouraging people to give us a call. And if you haven't been involved with the Australia Council before or been part of our core grants, then you really need to hop online and get yourself registered in our application management system before you can put in an application, basically. So it's a bit of a 2-step process, but again, just get in contact with us. We're all very friendly, and we want to hear from you. So I'll just go through the 3 strands or streams one by one. The first one is Survive. There's no closing dates for these. These are a rolling open grants with a quickish response from about 2 to 3 weeks. We're trying to you know, get the money out the door as soon as possible to artists and organisations. So Survive is available to, their grants are available to individuals, groups and organisations, and they're designed to recoup or offset money that you've lost due to cancelled activity. They're not designed to, you know, fix everybody or every, you know, we just don't have the money or the resources, but it's kind of a stopgap funding until the artists can get other relief from either their local, their state or territory funding authorities or other government departments. Basically, got a whole stack of frequently asked questions up on our website as well, and again, I'd encourage you to hop on the website and just have a look. So the Survive grants are up to $2,000 for individuals and groups, and up to $5,000 for organisations. They're designed to, you can apply for income or fees from cancelled work, which include fees, commissions, presentations, speaking opportunities or tours, residencies, workshops and collaborations, and costs such as, and this is not exhaustive, but travel or venue hire, equipment, material costs, freight, accommodation, rent, labour and other fees. We're funding practicing artists and arts workers. So again, I'd encourage you just to have a look at the guidelines and see whether you fit into the definition of a practicing artist or arts workers. These grants are being assessed by internally by senior officers across council, and then there'll be a moderation process which ensures equity across all the arts practices. Sorry about the little dinging noise. I'm not quite sure how to turn off my notifications, so sorry about that. We're trying to, we're already, they opened on the 3rd of April and we've already got well over 200 applications into all of these 3 streams. For Survive, the assessment criteria is the significance of the opportunity that's been lost and the impact on livelihood and or operations. So you'll be asked to describe your artistic practice or service, what the opportunity was that you've lost and what you're seeking to recoup or offset in terms of costs, and the impact of this loss on your livelihood or the operation of your organisation. And you'll be asked to supply some support material about your work and what you do. It's a very simple application form, but again, I'm just encouraging people to get in contact with us. The second stream is Adapt, and this is it's a stream that's designed to for artists and arts organisations to repurpose their way of connecting with audiences or visitors to galleries, etc., etc. These are individuals and groups can apply for up to $10,000 and organisations can apply for up to $20,000. Again, you need to get online and register if you haven't already. These, and again, there's lots of frequently asked questions involved in that. These grants can include, they're designed for groups and individuals and organisations to adapt their practice and explore new ways of working. This can include skills and career development, business development, development of your artistic practice, or exploring kind of new ways to connect and collaborate, inclusively, basically, and also increase your digital capability. It's designed to address sort of longer term strategies to sustain your practice and ways of working. And again, these are very strange times, so we're trying to be as flexible and adaptive as we possibly can. And as these applications come through, we'll get a better idea of what's needed by the sector. So in the adapt stream, you can, for skills and career development, this might include remote professional mentoring, mentor fees, digital residencies, coordination and collaboration fees, or course fees and online learning to develop your skills and practice. Business and practice development, which is adapting your existing practice and operations by exploring alternative models or platforms for creation, collaboration, mobility, distribution, advisor fees. The list goes sort of on and on. You can apply to develop collaborations and connections, again, across digital platforms. We will also look at funding. You can include expenses to strengthen your digital infrastructure, which is either accessing the software that you need, or making your content accessible to diverse and underrepresented audiences, artists and arts practitioners, advisor fees, subscriptions, and equipment and infrastructure, which is very, very important. Again, the projects and activities must involve practicing or benefit practicing artists and arts workers, or the arts sector in general. And we won't fund projects or activities that have already taken place. The third stream is creation. Now, this is designed to make sure that you can keep making your work, basically. And it's there's no closing date. So you've got individuals and groups can apply up to $10,000, and organisations can apply for up to $20,000. Again, I'd encourage you to jump on the website and have a look at all the FAQs. It's designed so that we can still give grants to individuals, groups and organisations, so you can continue making your work. So for existing work, we'll support activities at all stages of the development, including research and creative development and presentation. And we're looking for new work, we're looking for creative and innovative projects that build community participation, connection, cohesion in these times. We're all looking to connect, but obviously we can't go and give each other a big fat hug. So we're looking at ways that we can, keep in contact and until this, all passes. But hopefully it will give us new ways of working and connecting across all arts practices. Again, we're encouraging people to call us or contact us through our inquiries email. Have we got that,
It's on the screen now.
Is it? Great. Okay, because I can't see anything really, except from the nose in front of my face. So these, all these three streams are they're not open to our 4-year funded organisations, or if you're currently receiving a visual arts and crafts strategy funding from council, or if you're a national performing arts partnership organisation, which is basically the old major performing arts. It's also not designed, it's designed for Australian artists and arts workers. So if you're, you know, if you're an organisation based out of Australia, which you guys aren't, you're not eligible. So there's a full list of eligibility, frequently asked questions, and again, just get in touch with us. You know, we're here to listen to your ideas and you know, try and get some money out the door, you know, in the next couple of weeks, basically. I think that's it.
I think, you know, we have $5 million to put towards to this, to get us to the end of the financial year at the end of June. And then we'll be looking at how we can use our funds for the next financial year to position them best for what the sector then needs. And we're not going to know that for a month or two, really, about what situation we're dealing with, what the future looks like. So all of the information that we get back from the applications that we receive to the Resilience Fund will help us shape what programs that we're able to offer post June. But it is, you know, 5 million isn't going to solve all of the issues of the sector. It's going to be hugely challenging, and there's going to be many more people who deserve this funding than we'll be able to give it to. But that should not put you off from putting your hands up and approaching us. So yeah, just really echo this message of getting in touch and talking to us about.
Also just, sorry, Pip, I just want to reiterate that if you're currently receiving funding from the Australia Council and your project has been thwarted by COVID, then we're happy to look at extending the timelines or you repurposing the funding, and we just want to work with you to help you sort of get through it, basically. So yeah, as I say, if you've already got funding, but the nature of the project has altered significantly, and you need you know, to have a chat with us about how you actually want to spend the money that you can't spend because your project can't go ahead in the same format, then yeah, just get in touch with us as well. So we're, as Pip said before, flexibility is key here, and we just want to be as helpful and as useful as we possibly can be.
Thanks very much, Sandy and Pip. And in interest of time, we are going to have to keep moving. We have a great panel lined up to speak to us. Thanks for terrific information there. And just a reminder to people that you can jump online. The web address is there. You can find out further information about the package that's been released. There's an inquiries line. By all means, please use that and reach out to the team if you have any questions. And again, if you're an existing funded project and you have to make changes, pick up that phone. The team's there to help, and they'll do what they can. So thanks very much, team. Elaine, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. Look, thanks, Sandy and Pip. You're both awesome people, and that was very comprehensive and great to follow. I just want to highlight some questions before we move on to our guest speakers. Leanne has asked, is it possible to, and I know that I acknowledge Pip and Joe in the background there have been answering these, but I think for the purposes of our participants who are on the webinar, here are some of the questions and themes coming through as that presentation occurred. So Leanne's asked, is it possible to apply for all 3 or 2 of those grants at the same time, those streams? And Pip's come through and said yes, you can apply for all 3 at the same time. Thank you, Pip, for that. Lily's asked about organisations that are not funded by Australia Council but rely on tourism. For example, the Brewarrina Aboriginal Cultural Museum. Pip's answer to that was, you need to make a case for how you deliver artistic activity or provide a service to the arts, particularly for the benefit of artists and or communities. So thank you for that too, Pip. Are there any quick funds? Is it only that the resilience funds comes into these three streams, and are there any other additional quick funding?
I think this is it for us.
Yeah.
These three, and so it's turnaround times of four weeks for Survive. You'll get money if you're successful. You'll get money within 4 weeks, and for Create and Adapt, it's within 6 weeks.
Okay, thanks. Katina's asked is...
Which is pretty quick as we go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I'd also encourage everybody to, I think we've got we've got a COVID-19 page on our website, which has also got other funding streams that have been made available by local council and local councils, and the state and territory funding bodies have also jumped in, and I can't go through all of them, but I'd suggest that you look locally as well, basically.
Okay, thank you. Look, Katina's asked, is Survive stream to cover cancelled activity from only previously Australia Council supported activity, or does that cover any cancelled activity, whether that's supported by OzCo or not? Pip, thank you for that. The answer is any arts related activity, whether supported by OzCo or not. So that's, thank you. And then finally, so we can move on. I think that's it. Oh, we just got a positive from Felicity. Thank you, Felicity. She admires how Australia Council has been supporting the regions. So thank you for that feedback. That's terrific. We do need to hear good things as well. You know, the team at Australia Council, and I know firsthand, they've been my colleagues for many years, and they're incredibly diligent and passionate about the arts and about everybody who works across the myriad of areas. But anyway, we're going to put that down. Please keep your questions coming through. We're going to move on to our guest speakers. I'm going to do the introductions. So today we have invited 3 guests to join us, and I understand just before, sorry, Pip needs to leave us. So thank you, Pip, very much for joining us today. And Sandy, if you need to also, I know that you guys have got a lot going on, and please feel welcome to, you know, depart from us. Thanks. Thank you so much for your contribution. So today we've invited 3 guests to join us to discuss our arts and cultural industries and how they're dealing with the COVID impact and what strategies they've got in place to support the sector. So I'm going to read through each of the 3 guests and their background, and then I'll hand it over to them. So our guests today, 3 guests. We have Penny Smallacombe, Head of Indigenous Screen Australia. Penny is a member of the Murrumbidgee people. I'm sorry, Penny, if I have said that incorrectly.
That's okay. It's Murrumbidgee.
Thank you. From the Northern Territory. She has completed a cadetship with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, the ABC, and has a Masters of Arts in Documentary Producing from the Australian Film and Television School, AFTRS in Sydney. At AFTRS, Penny produced 2 documentaries, Roger and A Change of Heart. A Change of Heart was nominated for a Dendy Award and played at several international film festivals, including IDFA. Penny worked in the Indigenous Programs Unit at the ABC, where she produced and directed for series 6 and 7 of Message Sticks and ABC's highly successful Yarning Up series 1 and 2, and was part of the Screen Australia's Indigenous Department's Producers Initiative in 2011. And before beginning her role at Screen Australia, Penny was working as senior programmer for NITV. Incredibly acclaimed woman. Elaine Crombie is joining us as well. She is the First Nations First Peoples Organiser for the MEAA Entertainment Arts Alliance. We know, everyone knows Elaine. She's an accomplished actor, director, producer, singer, songwriter, stand-up comedian and writer, and a staunch MEAA member who has appeared in multiple plays, TV series and films. Elaine has performed in stage productions across the country and around the world, and we welcome her here today. Final speaker is Stephanie Parkin. Stephanie is with the Indigenous Engagement. She is the manager of the Indigenous Engagement for Copyright Agency Limited. Stephanie is from the Quandamooka people of North Stradbroke Island with a background in IP, intellectual property law. Stephanie is a director of the Indigenous Art Code and currently working part-time at the Copyright Agency Limited. Welcome our speakers. So our first guest is Penny Smallacombe. Hi, Penny. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. How are you going with all of this business at the moment?
Well, look, I'm lovely to see you, Leanne, and also all the other guests. And I've pressed something on the screen, so I can only see Elaine right now on my screen, which is great. So I'm just going to talk directly to Elaine. Which is fantastic. Yeah, there you go. I love those glasses. You've got the look ready. Look, I'm not too bad at all. I am based in Sydney. My mother was, feeling a bit unwell. So I did a quick run for Palm Cove 2 days ago. So I'm in full isolation for 14 days by myself here in a little apartment in Palm Cove. Day 3, it's all going well. Come and talk to me day 14 and we'll see how we're going to go then. But, I'm pretty good. My mum's dropping food off at the door, so I can't complain. It's going to be a very quiet Easter, which means that I can, do all of those things and sort of, write that book I wanted to write and, read that book I wanted to read. So I'll have a go at all of that. But I will note that I'm extremely privileged and lucky because I do have full-time employment with Screen Australia, heading up the Indigenous department there. So I won't complain, and I completely appreciate the very difficult situation and circumstances that so many other people are currently finding themselves in. All of our amazing freelancers across the arts and also in the screen sector, our writers and directors and our producers. It's a very, very hard time for all of them. So I do acknowledge the full-time work that I have and how lucky I am. But, so we're going to keep on keeping on, really, I think, in the screen world. With Screen Australia's Indigenous department, we're a small little department, if people don't know. Really wonderful coordinator, Savannah Glynn Braun, and 2 really fantastic development investment managers, Angela Bates and Laurie Brannigan Onato. And I'm not just mentioning them because I know they're listening. They actually are fabulous. And we're all still on deck at Screen Australia and doing as best we can to. Laurie just said I'm fabulous. She is indeed. But we're doing the best to try and keep things moving and keep things rolling. Screen Australia is very much open for business. And on the whole, for Screen Australia, we have kind of put a whole lot of money into development at this stage. And we are encouraging a lot of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander writers and directors and producers that kind of utilise our development and production funds often to keep coming through our development funding door. We've got a round open right now, actually, which closes on the 23rd of April. We have development funding rounds for feature film, television drama, online series and documentary development concepts that people can apply for. There are some eligibility criteria, so I always recommend that people have a look at the guidelines, the funding guidelines on our Screen Australia website first, or definitely make contact with Laurie and Angela, because they can sort of put you in contact with the right area, and if it's required to come in for certain areas, we can try and line up relationships and partnerships with perhaps more experienced people to be able to sort of knock on our funding door. So with COVID-19, we've had quite a few productions that have been pushed back. We were particularly excited about a project that we were calling Cook 2020. That's just its working title, where we were working with the New Zealand Film Commission. And we have a producer here in Australia from No Coincidence Media, Mitchell Stanley, Aboriginal producer, and his producing partner, Tony Stowers, as well as a Māori producer partnership in New Zealand. And together they were producing sort of 4 short films by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander writer-directors here, and 4 short films in New Zealand by 3 Māori writer-directors and 1 Samoan team. And our plan was to sort of bring this in to be a really beautiful feature film that kind of interweaved all of these really different stories about survival, really, about the effects of survival due to all of our sort of joint experience around colonisation and the arrival of Cook. God, aren't we so lucky while this whole horrible COVID thing is happening and we're all in danger? The whole Cook agenda has just been kind of completely bloody sidelined. So joy to that, there's a silver lining to everything. Maybe some of that statue money can be pushed towards other areas. Well, most certainly it should be. But so we've had some really exciting projects that have kind of been pushed back. We were hoping to go with our Total Control Series 2. We were hoping that would be up and running and ready to shoot in August, and that's very likely to be pushed back. The wonderful team, Brindle, Trishel Morton-Thomas and Rachel Clements, had a really fantastic children's series that was going to shoot about, a motocross riding in Central Australia, and that's been pushed back, as well as numerous other documentaries, which were kind of all about to go into production. So it's really hard on our teams because, as most people know, in the screen industry, you don't earn a lot of money during development. You get your real paycheck and your company stays afloat during production. So to push production back is very hard on a lot of companies, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander production companies right now. So we are trying to really sort of say to people, okay, well, that TV series is pushed back, or that feature, Job Clerk's got an amazing feature she's developing, that production might go back on that as well. But we know that you've got lots of other ideas out there. We know that you've got quite a few different things on the boil. And so we're definitely pushing people towards our development dollars. And if people are out there and want to discuss more about that, we are more than happy to kind of have a chat about this kind of supercharging our kind of development fund area within the Indigenous department, and also within Screen Australia's drama department as well. So there are lots of a few different doors to go through, not always just through the Indigenous department, although we're here to service all of you first and foremost. So that's kind of one area that I want to push people towards. As I said, check out the guidelines. What were all those jokes going around? It was just like, didn't Shakespeare was in quarantine, or King Lear, and what have you. But I'm more than sure that during this isolation period, we're going to have some cracker of new feature and new TV series ideas. Elaine should be having her own YouTube channel right now that I would happily just tune into every single day. Can't you just set something up in your kitchen, Elaine, and like a little fixed rig? Yes, absolutely. Boom, write that down. We'll just set you up in your kitchen. Give us a time. Give us a Facebook thing. I'm just going to tune in and I'll sort of watch you make dinner every night. And Michael and Andrew buzz around and eat all the food. That'll be deadly. But look, I think that, you know, the funny thing with Screen Australia is we're always rewriting guidelines. We're always thinking about new ways to consider, you know, the ways we work, how we could fund better, what kind of stories we craft, what kind of things we need to do. And, you know, often we don't have time because we're kind of running in this, we're hamsters in this bloody wheel, just funding and pushing and trying to get content out. Aboriginal content, Aboriginal-led content, Aboriginal written content, Aboriginal directed content, trying to get it out. And I think that from Screen Australia and certainly our Indigenous department's point of view is what we want to do is just, we're going to take this time to really think about what we do, how we service our filmmakers and how we can better service our filmmakers. So we're going to be looking at all of our funding guidelines, the ways that we do things, the kinds of money that go out to the sector, our strike rate. We want to try and provide more information out to the sector, you know, about, you know, how difficult it is to make a feature film in this current world, and why aren't you thinking about online series, and why aren't you thinking about, you know, TV series and online platforms and things like that. So I think we're going to do a lot of that coming up. But there was a few quick things that I wanted to mention while I've got your attention. We have a short film initiative that we do every year, and this one's called No Ordinary Black, and we're looking for short film concepts up to 8 minutes long. All you need is a first draft of your script. Give us a great character, a strong Aboriginal character. Give us a journey. Give us something to love. You know, give us something. And what we will do is, it's usually quite competitive, I will be honest. You know, we do get about 50 to 60 applications for every short film, of which we only kind of develop about 10 of them. And from there, we fund 6 of them. NITV is our partner on this short film initiative. We kind of mix it up between the ABC and NITV. And we take people through a big residential workshop where we would bring everyone together, and we do lots of script and story development work. Then we'd bring in all these actors. Elaine every year comes along to our workshops to star in all the shorts, of course. And then we bring in all the actors and we bring in crews, and everyone gets to, or the directors that are selected and successful, get to shoot a scene, a practice scene. Like, we literally pay for someone to shoot a practice scene of their short film so that they can go away and continue to write more drafts before we get to a sort of production funding area. This is one of our biggest kind of breakthrough areas. When the Indigenous department kicked off 26 years ago, it started just with short film initiatives. Wal Saunders, you know, amazing work in terms of kicking that off. Santa Celluloid, Shifting Sands, like, it was just short film workshop every couple of years. And that's certainly where the Warwick Thorntons and the Ivansens, you know, and the Murray Louis and everyone kind of got their, Leah Purcell, Elaine, Crombie, you know, Aaron Farzo, too many to name, kind of kicked off by doing short films through these initiatives. So it's a really good opportunity to apply for. And that one closes up on the 20th of April. So it's not too late. It's only the 9th. If you think that you can write a beautiful 8-page script of a beautiful story, a beautiful character, please, it's not too late to jump online and just type in No Ordinary Black Short Film Initiative, Screen Australia, and you'll see how you can apply and send that through. So that one's open for business. Because we can't do the residential workshop, because we are, you know, we very well know that we're sort of, it's kind of locked down for 3 months probably, and then possibly 6 months business is going to be affected as usual. A lot of our short films are shot in regional or city areas with Aboriginal people, possibly in remote communities. And we know that pushback is going to be even longer, just for safety and health and safety issues around COVID-19, or COVID 2020 as I'm calling it. So we will do an online workshop through Zoom. We're lining that up now. So we'll sort of make our selections of the successful applicants in May, and then they'll be expected to kind of jump on the Zoom and join us through a script development workshop. We bring in some of the best writers and some of the best script editors in the country, possibly internationally, to be able to work with people on their scripts. So we're going to just try and continue to do everything that we do online, which is something that we do. And then we're probably just going to have to wait out in terms of shooting those scenes and bringing in the actors and working with actors kind of work until a bit later on in the year. But, that's a really good opportunity for artists and something to keep an eye out for. Something else that we're doing, I'm sorry if I'm taking up too much time, I'm going to move along very fast. Something else that we're doing to try and get information out to the sector is we're doing fortnightly masterclasses. We did our first one yesterday via Zoom. They're going to be every fortnight on a Thursday at 12 o'clock. We did our one yesterday with Murray Louis, who is, of course, DOP cinematographer extraordinaire, a beautiful, fabulous Torres Strait Islander, super talented, top-end wedding, Rosehaven, AMMM, Aboriginal Radio, Family Law, too many shows to name, and so many documentaries. He came on and did a wonderful masterclass for an hour. I think we had about 100 people sort of RSVP, and then we had about 72 that stayed online for the full hour. So really, really pleased with that. I thought he was amazing. I taught me things about lighting scenes that I didn't even know how to do that, what it even meant. I learned so much about lenses. So we're going to continue to do those every fortnight. And Murray was outstanding. And our next person is Stephen McGregor, who is a script writing extraordinaire, also a fabulous director in his own right. He wrote Sweet Country. Steve McGregor's from Darwin, from D-Town. And he also wrote for Mystery Road Series 1 and Mystery Road Series 2. He wrote the first episode for Mystery Road Series 2, which kicks off on the 18th of April, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think it's the 19th.
19th of April. So he's going to join us in our next masterclass. So please look on Facebook, look on the websites. Elaine Crombie will share it. So just look on her Facebook, and that way you can RSVP. Stephen, if you want to learn about writing, Stephen McGregor is your man. So look out for that. We're going to do someone every fortnight for an hour. Because as I said, we're kind of locked down, we're isolated. And so we all don't slowly go crazy. It's a great time to, I think, learn and kind of absorb as much knowledge as you possibly can. Or do jigsaws or have a couple of wines, whatever works for you. I'm going to do it all. The other thing that we're going to do as well is we were going to do a big feature film kind of workshop. We've got a few amazing creative people, Adrian Wills, Jub Clerk, Tricia Morton-Thomas, Beck Cole, Erica Glynn, Wayne Blair. We've got some beautiful feature films in development right now, Larissa Brent. And we wanted to bring everybody together and talk about the kind of feature films in the new world order. As you know, the cinemas have had to close. The cinemas are kind of in dire straits right now. We're not quite sure how they will come out of this. So, we really want to look to, what will cinema be going forward? And, where do you find audiences going forward for your feature film? So we're still going to do our workshop, and we're working with Sue Maslin, who's the producer of The Dressmaker, and she's going to run a really fantastic online workshop with us about feature films. So we've kind of just uprooted everything that we would love to do in person during our residential workshops in our development of story, always first and foremost. And we're doing as much as we can by utilising Zoom and other kind of online mediums, which is very, very exciting for us. But, I guess just kind of finishing off, because I've taken up too much time, I'm handing over to Elaine right now, is just keep writing, keep coming up with ideas, because we want to see them on screen one day.
Thank you so much, Penny. That was incredibly comprehensive. And, it's really interesting, isn't it, that while it provides opportunity to almost reset ourselves, you know, and look at the way in which we do our business. And, you know, so it was interesting picking up your guidelines, looking at all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, absolutely, just like the screen sector, you know, as the arts industry start writing, you know, now's the time to really start focusing and creating. Exactly. Okay, thank you so much, Penny. I'm going to hand it over to Elaine.
Hi everybody, Wayne Yundabalya coming to you live from Nukunuk country. I'm up on the hill in Napperby looking down on Port Pirie, got my eyes on my boys because they live in town with my mum and my nan. I crossed the border 12 days ago, and so I'm on lockdown. I have the deadly Nikki Ashby living at home with me, so we're never short of a laugh. So I just wanted to just give a background as to what I do within the Media Entertainment Arts Alliance. And so I'm going to tell you a little story time. 2018 Federal Council was held, and I was an invited speaker to the National Performers Committee, which is held the day before the Federal Council. Myself, Sharina Clanton and Wayne Blair were invited. And during that time of us attending Federal Council, I noticed there was a gap. Wayne kept repeating the fact that there was only 4 of us that were invited in this sea of white. And he has that way where he just repeats a point. We're like, yes, Wayne, that's right. I can help you fix that. And so I did. I offered to fill a gap and was supported by MEAA to travel around from February to July, to travel around the country and visit. I visited all the capitals, cast the net out, spoke to those who turned up to our meetings and stuff like that, and just, you know, talked about being an actor, being a union member, and what that means. I was aiming for a roundtable in July of 2018, and that happened. And there was 35 to 45 attendees who were predominantly film and TV and theatre actors. And also they were all multidisciplinary artists as well. From our MEAA roundtable, I also give the name MEAA just as a reminder that we see you, MEAA, as well as being a part of the Indigenous committee, MEAA, and convening convening MEAA. So from that roundtable came a reference table that I always look to to remind me of where I'm going and what wins were had so far. Sorry, I wrote this before and it sounded really good in my head. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I hope you're following what I'm saying. So yes, well, yeah, that's right. No, so I looked to that reference table that came out of the roundtable in 2018, just as a way of how I'm going to work and what we need to achieve. And so we now have 3 representatives on the National Performers Committee, and those representatives are Irma Woods, Nairi Pegram and Wayne Blair. And for a committee that used to be predominantly white, we can proudly say that we are chipping away at what used to be the norm and can hold up a picture of what we see as the norm, like what I want. So it's not just about me, but my intention for the future that I'm working towards is creating encompasses us all as Black artists, as a Black arts family, visual artists, actors, dancers, musicians, songwriters, independents. Just like I just want to be informed as I can in order to be able to, you know, so we can change and work together. I sort of sound like I'm rambling. I can feel myself starting to ramble. So that when we come out of this, I want to make sure that I'm still representing the right message and that people will want to seek me out for a yarn, join the union, add their voice to the protection of the black arts, funding, development and creation and presentation of works. So much needs to happen in our sector, and when we drill down into that statement, so much needs to happen within our black arts sector. Respect, acknowledgement, adhering to the fact that art and expression is our solid foundation and it's a part of how we grew up and how we grow every day. Yeah, I 100% echo Penny's opening sentiments, especially when it comes to our independent artists. Yeah, so the two images that are on screen now, one is from Barbara and the Camp Dogs, and you know, she's looking very sullen in that photo, and that tour happened at the start of last year, and you know, I lost my brother at the start of last year, and so it was a very hard time, but I still soldiered on, and you know, every night performing and singing was healing me and looking towards, you know, knowing that I was repairing myself. And the picture on the right is a beautiful, hopeful photo of me when I was from STC. I was meant to do 7th-day grieving this year, and, you know, Elaine on that right, she looks really hopeful and all that. And then, you know, 2020 turned all the way up and said, no, Elaine, hopeful Elaine in that photo, you are not doing that. But at the same time, with, you know, talking about privilege, I work with the union, I still have a job, and while it pinched that I won't be doing the show, it's okay. It's okay, Lainey. It's okay that you don't do the show, you know, like I'm constantly every day thinking, how can I help? And also on Zoom meetings, listening to my line manager and, you know, Paul Murphy, and listening to how we're trying to, you know, what we're like gathering information. Like I said last week to Wesley, we were holding meetings to get people to put videos out and stuff like that. And there's been another round of videos that have come out from, you know, the deadly Ursula the other day, Ursula and Rachel and myself, Nikki did one, you know, there's a whole, and that's only 4 people, that represents 400 artists that have all put stuff out to really, you know, bang on those doors over in Canberra and kind of go, what's going on? Hello, do you see us here? We're the ones that, you know, fill your time when you go home and shut off. Those people that they're turning to watch, you know, to watch shows at the end of the day or turn off their brains, they're relying on actors and artists and all of that. So why aren't we in the conversation when it comes to surplus packages and, you know, the amounts of money that are given to support? Do you know what I mean? And that was my first, do you know what I mean? So I'm rambling now. Yes, Leanne.
So, I mean, one of the questions that I probably had is, you know, what is the uptake for Indigenous performers and back industry people like roadies and, you know, art departments and all of those sorts of things that happen behind? What's the uptake on people joining the union? And the second part of that is to join. I noticed that you've got a website here up on the screen. So is that where people can be directed to if they're wanting to join the MEAA?
Yes. So they can join through that link now, and also the emblem that's on your screen now will I'm just in. There's going to be a website launched soon, which is, so if you go onto the MEAA, if you just go onto MEAA.org, that emblem will be there, and you can just click on that button and it'll come to our page where you can join, and and so on that page there'll be a whole heap of other links and articles and stuff like that you want to read, or if you want to have your say about anything, like, it'll be up there. My email will actually, I might just put my email in here now, just for people if they want to have a further yarn about anything. Because I'm not working for me, I'm working for you all, for all 77 people that are here now in this conversation.
Elaine, thank you so much. It's really, really important work that you're doing, and you know, this is where the advocacy comes from, and this is where we do push governments and ensure that there's equity across, you know, the entertainment and arts industry areas, because it not only is it about entertainment and the shows that we get to switch off from, but it's about journalists and a whole range of different people who work in the screen and theatre sections. Thank you so much, Elaine.
It is a great reset, and from this, when things pass and we come out, we really have the time, we really have the opportunity now to tell it like it is and push for what our future as Black creatives looks like, and we can stand staunch in that fact.
Great.
Yeah,
thank you so much. I'm going to move on now and introduce Stephanie Parkin, who's from the Copyright Agency. I'm going to hand straight over to you, Stephanie. Do we have Stephanie?
Yeah. I think the host just stopped the video, so they'll need to...
Yep, Renee will get onto that. There you are.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you both for your insights as well on the panel this afternoon. And thank you to the Australia Council for this invitation to be here and connect with you all. Yes, a bit about me in the introduction. So I'm from the Quandamooka people of North Stradbroke Island, also known as Minjerribah. A lot of my family from the island, we're connected to the Delaney's and the Martin families from over there. At the moment, I'm dialing in from Brisbane, Meanjin. They've shut the island down to a lot of tourists and only permanent residents over there. So, I mean, it's a good thing because it's for the safety of our elders and people there in the community. So it'll be a bit of time before I'm able to get back. So I'm not an artist myself. I'm not a creative. My sister's an artist. I have artists in my family. And I wear a few hats in supporting artists and things that they do. And today I'm here to share some information with you all about what the Copyright Agency is doing to support artists during this time and creators. So next slide, please. So some of you may know us, Copyright Agency. We're also known as VisCopy previously as well. So I'll just give you a brief rundown of who we are. So we're a not-for-profit organisation. The main office is based in Sydney, and I work remotely in Brisbane. We represent Australian and New Zealand artists. A lot of the work that we do revolves around licensing copyright in creatives' work, so others can use that work appropriately and ensure that artists and creators are being paid fairly for that work. We have a visual arts team that specialises in licensing of artworks for a wide variety of uses. The organisation also manages the resale royalty scheme that some of you might be aware of. And we also operate the John Freeze Award and provide grants through our cultural fund, which has now been increasingly more important with the release of this emergency funding that was announced earlier this week that I'll go through. So next slide, please. So this slide here that's showing is the information, or some information on the emergency funding packages that Copyright Agency is offering. So this was announced earlier this week. Applications for these grants are open right now. They opened 2 days ago, and they can be accessed and submitted through our website. So if you go to our website, copyright.com.au, on the front page there, you'll see a media release about this emergency funding that's available. And you'll also see a link to our Cultural Fund tab, which has all of the information and eligibility criteria for each of the funds that we've made available. The eligibility criteria for each of the funds vary. So some funds have 5 criteria that need to be satisfied. Some might have 8, depending on the type of grant that's been applied for. For specific questions around the criteria and funds that have been offered, at this time it's suggested that to get in touch with us via email, and you can do that. I will have some information on the latest slides, but you can contact us by email at culturalfund, one word, culturalfund@copyright.com.au. And the application process is it's fairly easy. If you haven't applied for funding from us previously, you'll just need to register an account with Smarty Grants, which is the platform that we use to assess the applications and funding. I'll also share my details at the end of this slide as well to assist in the flow of information for everybody. There are some relatively short timelines for the grant applications. One benefit of this is that the sooner we can get the applications in and decided upon, the sooner we can get the money out to those who need it. A positive to that is that the application form is actually quite short and simple. It's to the point. It's the same application form for each bucket of funding that you might be applying for. And within that form, you just need to identify which fund you're applying to and provide the relevant information. So Copyright Agency has released this emergency funding package in recognition of all the festivals and fairs and exhibitions that have been cancelled due to COVID-19 and how that's impacted the ability for artists and creators to be creative and also generate a livelihood from that creativity. So that's really the recognition that's been put together to support this emergency funding. The application process does require a lot of descriptions of how COVID-19 has impacted the ability to create and generate income. So information will be required around that. There's also some requirements in the application to upload some documents, not many, there might just be a couple. So for an example, if you're an individual, you might need to upload a copy of your CV or a picture of your recent work. And if you're applying as an organisation, you might, for example, be asked to upload a copy of the intended program that you had wanted to roll out, but because of the circumstances that didn't go ahead. I think importantly, you do not have to be a Copyright Agency member in order to apply for these grants. So that's open to our members, but it's also open to everyone else as well. So I might just get started then just in that first dot point on the slide about what is the actual response. So we're providing an additional $375,000 in emergency grants for writers, publishers, visual artists and organisations. This is to help these bodies respond to COVID-19 in a creative way and also assist in generating income from that as well. In addition to the $375,000, funds from our cultural fund have been brought forward to the first quarter of this financial year. So the decision making and allocations for that 1.8 million have been brought forward, and the intention behind that again is to ensure that money can get out as soon as possible to those who need it. And in addition to that, we are continuing to provide access to our Cultural Fund grants under our existing program. So those will continue also. And I will just mention there that there's 2 rounds of grants for organisations and also some fellowships valued at around $80,000 for writers and visual artists. So that's part of the ongoing package that we would ordinarily provide through our Cultural Fund. So if I can take you back to the package to do with emergency funding. So there's 6 parts there that I've just made some quick dot points about what they generally cover. So in the first one, it's support for virtual Australian Writers Festival. So you might have seen a little bit in the media about this. We've been able to provide support to the Sydney Writers Festival to help them recreate a number of their programs to go onto an online sessions, including podcasts and online events. So this type of support for writers' festivals is to ensure that writers are paid for their involvement in these festivals and programs, and to also ensure that there's ongoing promotion and sale of their works. So for this band of funding, it's aimed at those festivals, particularly writers' festivals that had been scheduled that could no longer go ahead because of COVID-19. So if you're an organisation or festival that was thinking of doing something like that, this band of funding would be something to consider. If I go to the second dot point on that same slide there's the Emergency Action Fund. So $150,000 has been allocated for emergency grants for between $5,000 and $20,000. Again, this is for writers, visual artists, publishers and organisations that have been affected or are responding to COVID-19. It's intended that the money from this bucket will be spread as widely as possible. So if there are individuals applying under this fund, individual grants might be around $5,000. But if it's an organisation that's applying under this fund, the grant might be bigger, and depending on the impact as well. So under this emergency fund, the intention is to support work by established and new creators in many genres and from all diverse backgrounds to apply for that. If you are an organisation applying under this Emergency Action Fund section, it's not required, but if you are obtaining match funding from other sources, that should be noted in the application for consideration as well. If I move on to the third dot point, so new commissioned literary works. So the idea behind this funding and project is to support the publication of 20 to 30 works responding to the challenges faced in early 2020. So a working title has been put forward for this project for writers to respond to. So the working title that has been put forward is Our Year of Fire, Flood and Plague, Australian Writers Respond to the Challenges of 2020. So that might give you an idea of some of the works that may need to be responded to. Under this part of the project, The Guardian will be working with artists to get those works published, and further information will be available on our website around that. If I just move to the fourth point, funding for innovative online projects. So under this band of funding, we're providing grants of up to $5,000. That may increase. And this band of funding is available for writers and interviewers who might create online projects that respond to COVID-19. As an example, this might be the creation of and hosting of a podcast that might interview a group of Australian writers speaking about their work, and also providing ways in which those works can then be linked to sales of books and other publications to try and generate income for those artists. So that's really about, I suppose, transferring the works of writers into online projects. So to the second last dot point there, there's a bucket of funding, emergency funding for visual arts projects. So under this section of funding, grants of up to $2,500 are available for individual artists or groups of artists with the intention to document and undertake projects that respond to COVID-19 and the impacts that it's been having. This work can be documented and produced in any style or medium, and the applications for that close on the 23rd of April. The following dot point now, just moving down, so funding for visual arts events. So under this section, we're looking to ways in which we can continue to support a lot of the events that we put on, like the John Freeze Awards. So we're looking at ways in which we can support and ensure that there's virtual launches of those events. Further detail around how that's exactly going to be rolled out will be provided in due course as well. And just on that last point, again, it just goes to the continuation of the work that we've been committed to, and that's some work that we're doing in relation to taking poetry to schools, and it's called Poetry in Action. So we're looking to turn that into a digital version for children as well. So that's just an example of some of the ongoing work that we're continuing to do in that space. So that's just a very general overview of the different parts of the funding that's being provided by the Copyright Agency, announced earlier this week. Next slide, please. So how to apply? As I mentioned, there's specific criteria for each of those things that I've just identified within their various buckets of money available on our website. If you go to our website, you can find this easily through our Cultural Fund tab, and it has all the information about these emergency funds, in addition to all the continuing grants that we're providing under our Cultural Fund. As I said, there are some fairly short timelines for those, and again, it's about ensuring that we can get the applications in, get that decided, and get the money out as soon as possible. You can direct any questions to the Cultural Fund there, and I've also included my email there as well, because I'm more than happy to take questions and assist with the flow of information and getting things shared around.
Fantastic.
So it seems like a lot there. There's probably a lot jammed into that, but I think it gives a good overview of what is being provided. And we're certainly here to assist with any queries that might come up along the way. So I hope you found this information quite helpful and informative for this journey that we're all on. So I do appreciate the time to be here this afternoon and connect with you all.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And it also shows us too, there is pockets of funding that are being delivered in terms of the response to this crisis. And so I think, it reinforces how important these webinars are, and bringing people like yourself in front of the screen and sharing, where those opportunities are. I know, like you at Australia Council with Cal, it is very competitive. It's a competitive time anyway, and a stressful time, but it's great to see that the flexibility that's occurring and toward our artists is fantastic. Thanks so much, Stephanie. That will also go up onto our website, but I'm going to hand that over to Jason now. Thank you. Thanks so much, Stephanie.
And thanks to all the panellists for sharing their information. I see that Elaine has had to jump onto another Zoom call. It seems to be the thing to do today, or actually through this whole period, is Zoom is probably benefiting more than anybody else from what's going on. But great to have this technology to enable us to continue to connect. Throughout that time, we continue to run the Q&A. As I said in the chat box before, at any stage, you can click on Q&A, have a look at the answered questions. You'll see the questions that people have asked and the responses that they've received. By all means, if you would like to follow up at any time, reach out to the Australia Council staff. We should do a check-in, Leanne, see how everybody is travelling at this time. Lots of information, a week's passed since the last session, and it's like a crazy world. Things just keep you know, new information keeps coming at us every day. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm glued to the morning updates to see where things are going. Last night, of course, yesterday, there was all the flurry in Canberra with, you know, the announcements around the JobKeeper funding and who would be eligible, whether or not, you know, casuals would be in or out in terms of less than 100 days. So I think we can all see that. There's also been some announcements out of the Commonwealth around some additional funds to go into the art sector. I believe that there's more information being released about that later today. So we don't have the details on that, but keep an eye out on what's going on, because there does appear to be some further information about to be released on those.
I'm just watching, there is a number of people who are having to shoot off, and I just wanted to reach out and just say thank you to all of those who are having to go on to other meetings, on webinars. Look, thank you for joining us. Look, I just want to know that also that we do a bit of a pulse check and just see how people are feeling. Every day brings a different challenge, but, you know, please, you know, talk to someone if you're having any difficulty. I know some people, you know, in isolation are getting a bit of cabin fever. You know, there are places that you can go to reach out to people and get some support as well, in terms of, you know, any additional counselling or, you know, things like that. But please, you know, reach out to people, even, you know, on sites like this as well, that, you know, if you need some help, please, we're all here, we're all in this. As we keep hearing that catch cry, we're all in this together, but it's, you know, it's very, very true.
I think also, Leanne, don't wait to be reached out to. If you know people are in isolation, reach out to them. Check in, make sure people are doing okay, obviously with our elders, but also, you know, shout out to those single people who might be locked up all on their own. And not able to interact with people beyond the technology that we have. You know, before someone mentioned about being able to hug. I think we can digitally hug people and say hello. It's good to stay connected.
Yeah. So as we start winding up, you know, I think it's really important that all of this is available on our Australia Council website. It's all been recorded, so it's an ongoing resource. If you've got people who missed out on joining us today, they can go onto that website and catch up with this roundtable and previous as well. But always remember, you know, physical distancing, social solidarity, and virtual sovereignty. Keep an eye on each other, check in with our elders. It's really, really important. Look, you know, don't forget, next week we also have another round table coming up, and I think that will jump back to Friday, not Thursday. We'll go back to our Friday sessions. It's only today we're doing it because of Easter. Tomorrow, I tell you what, I am looking forward to an Easter long weekend. I want to get in the garden. I want to stay away from the computer for at least 3 days. Yeah, just be outside in the backyard.
Will the Easter bunny come to you, Leanne?
Pardon?
Will the Easter bunny come to you?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, look, if there's any other questions or suggestions, you know, you can email on us on firstnationsarts@australiacouncil.gov.au. You know, have a really good long weekend as best that you can. Just stay connected, share information, and keep the flow of ideas going, everyone. And we'll get all through this. It will happen. But Jason, I want to thank you for co-hosting with me today.
Thank you, Leanne. It's been great fun. And remember, everybody, wash your hands. Hope you got your hand sanitizers and soaps. Nanette, I see your question around how do we do a welcome to country or acknowledgement during these times. We might take that question offline and provide a bit of response. At the beginning of this session, which has been recorded, you would have seen that we did an acknowledgement, and I think people are continuing to do those in different kinds of ways to acknowledge, you know, where the hosts are of a Zoom chat or online forum, but also to acknowledge the country that this technology is reaching out to. So you'll see an example of a great acknowledgement that Leanne did at the beginning of this.
Thank you. But also I think too, thanks so much for that, is just because we're on social media as well, the same principles of protocols apply. I think that's really important, you know, as we would in a meeting or, you know, face to face. Just because we're in a digital world, you know, we do have, in terms of blackfellas, yeah, we still operate and abide by those protocol principles. And I know that if I can direct you to the Australia Council, there still is those protocols online. It does reference digital. So if you want further information on that, go to the Australia Council website. You can download them as PDFs. And they're very much still relevant today.
And I can see somebody's also suggested that you can still book elders and have them Zoom into a call and also do a welcome to country. You know, we shouldn't allow these times to stop what are important cultural practices for us. That's
right. And certainly paying our elders for their time around that is incredibly important as well. Just because we're in the digital world doing this, we still need to pay artists and our elders.
Absolutely. All right, I think that's the conclusion of today's Zoom call. Thank you all for joining us. Again, if you'd like to recap on this, check back on the Australia Council's site, and we'll see you all again